Jeffrey, good to see you, and thanks for making a bit of time to come on and tell us about what you're doing. I want to kick off with a comment that you made to me last time we spoke because it really sort of stuck in my mind. You said to me, "Psychedelics saved my life." Now, that is a big statement. What do you mean by that, and why are psychedelics important? I mean, just talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I went from 0 to 1,000 with my experience with psychedelics. So my previous life, I kind of have this time in my 59 years on this planet of where I have like the previous life and then I have the current life. And there was a huge barrier to me accepting some of the challenges I had presented to me. And I had become very egocentric, very I'm not going to say a victim, but I guess even though I promoted all these things out to the public on all of our initiatives, even the book I wrote, I still felt something inside of me I wasn't really comfortable with. Like I almost needed to be away from me for a while, like
Right, right.
literally separate. And what psychedelics allowed me to do was exactly that. Allowed me to step outside, be the observer to this thing called Jeff, and at the same time, just be liberated from this weight of suffering and pain that I had been carrying with me for 9 years about. Um, and so, yeah, when I say they saved my life, I'm being very genuine about that. I mean, I think at the time I've had my first experience about 3 years ago, I was in a very dark place that I wasn't going to go back to drinking. I'd already decided that was not serving me well. I don't do any prescriptions. And meditation was great, but it wasn't enough. I needed something to take me closer to, and again, I refer to this not in a way I think's constructive for people, but it worked for Jeff Johnston, and that's all I can go on. I needed to be as close to the abyss, to death, so I could have that subconscious conversation with whatever's on the other side to try to figure out why I was presented these opportunities that didn't at the time seem fair. Like, why is it something happens to me? Like, what did I do wrong? And psychedelics just allowed me to really be the observer. And I've never come back. I've never really went back to what I would consider the old Jeff, more of an evolution or adaptation uh, to what life presents all of us, right, Paul? I mean, it's my story is my story. Sure, it's for some people that haven't been through some of this stuff, they're like, "Wow, how'd you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, if you live long enough,
Yeah.
simple math says we're all going to have shitty things happen to us if you live long enough."
Yeah.
It just doesn't always come in the order that happened to me in my life.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I mean, seeing as you used the word, I mean, tell us about what the new Jeff is trying to achieve. I mean, just give us a sense of what you're working on now. I mean, clearly it's been influenced by what happened in the past, and we can dig into that in a bit. But
Yeah.
just tell us about the mission. Tell us about what you're trying to achieve at the moment.
What I'm trying to achieve is to improve human flourishing through what I like to say the intersection of health, wealth, and purpose. Those three core tenets of the human experience, because each one of those in and of itself is a major cause of why people struggle with having a good life, let's say, or a good lived experience. We call it mental health or mental wellness, but the reality is it's just having the ability to have this short amount of time we have on this earth and have an enjoyable experience, not one just constantly putting out fires, constantly self-doubt, constant sabotage, constant worry about what people say about you. And so what I'm trying to do is, and I live in Iowa, so I'm just 4 hours from Chicago. I'm just in the middle of the United States. I don't really think I'm anything special, Paul. I'm just this dad, this 59-year-old dad in Iowa that had been presented some very difficult challenges, as we all have. But I've kind of embraced them with a fury, with using them as the impetus or the genesis behind this app that we've launched, this using AI as an ally, not an enemy, Um, and there's a story involved in the DNA of all this that I think is important for me to share, but not in an in a narcissistic way, but more in a
Sure.
vulnerable way,
Sure.
especially for men.
Before we
Yeah.
get into the story, because we'll come back to that, but
Yeah.
I mean, I love this idea that you've got about using AI as an ally. I mean, I think that's
Mhm.
a really interesting. So, just explain why or how your AI will be an ally to people. I mean, in terms of what you're doing. I mean, just talk us through that. We'll come back to why you're doing it in a minute.
Yeah. I think in simplest terms, 90, I can only, well, maybe it is the world now, but about 95% of all people in the United States have access or own a smartphone.
Yeah,
That's like,
yeah,
we know that for sure, certain foundational facts. And we know that the smartphones cause a lot of problem, a lot of distress, especially if you look at Gen Z. Social media, gaslighting, imposter syndrome, looking at Paul. Wow, Paul's got a better life than me. I'm Paul's age. Why is it fair that Paul? And that's what people do when they're on social
yeah,
media, or the algorithm sending you just these fist fights in parking lots or school shootings, and you think that everything outside of your house is falling apart. And the reality is, it isn't. I mean, there's more beautiful things going on every day than there are, horrific. There's no question that there's tremendous amount of love and inspiration and empathy and compassion out there. But the way that AI is structured, you're not really seeing it. The more you watch something, the more the algorithm feeds on that. So what we've done is we've shifted it. We've focused on what I call empowerment. AI empowered mental wellness planning. So think of the way that most people look at mental health, and I hate that term. I like to say mental wellness, Paul. But they look at it as episodic or acute. So you're scooting along, everything's okay. It's like your car, you don't really do anything until the check engine light kicks on, or you notice you're way over your miles and you take it in to get oil changed. But most times in our lives, we don't make changes until we're forced to. What we're trying to get people to do is move further upstream and not wait for the doctor's appointment when you're having a heart attack, or not wait till you get divorce papers because you couldn't stop drinking, or and instead of being so reactive in our society, we want to be proactive. And that's what I think AI can be. And you know what? AI is not going away. For people who fear it and they don't like it, I'm going to put it up there with the wheel and fire as that important in humanity.
mm,
Um, it's already ingrained in almost everything I do. And I'm 59. We didn't even start using AI till 3 years ago. So I
yeah.
shudder to think what AI is going to be like in 5 or 10 years,
Yeah.
you know? And
But I think that's a well-made point. I mean, whether you like it, love it, or hate it, it's not going
yeah,
away. But
you can
now,
hate it. You're just going to get further behind.
yeah. So I know this matters to you for a particular reason. I mean, just explain to people why this project is so important to you. Now, I know it's quite a long story, so
Yeah.
probably give us the edited highlights, but explain why this matters because it's a very personal thing. Certainly, when you described it to me, it seems to me it's driven by your kind of personal experience.
As most of us are. If you
Yeah.
look at where you're at in your
Yeah.
life, most of what you do is driven by personal experience. I have a saying that I like, and I'll just throw it out there to start, and then I'll go back in time a little bit and kind of paint the picture of where this all started. It's purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. So you have to say that a few times to really resonate it. Purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. And I heard somebody say something like that. It wasn't the same thing, but I thought that's an unbelievable way to look at passion, because so many times we talk to people
Yeah.
about go find your passion, right? Or, you have to find something with purpose. And I'm like, that's hard to do. It's just hard to all of a sudden have purpose.
Yeah.
But if you take a personal event in your life, maybe your grandpa died of Alzheimer's, or your mom had breast cancer, or somebody died in your family of a drunk driver, all of a sudden now you're like, well, this is personal for me. I think if you invest everything into that personal experience, you will then find your passion or your purpose. And in my case, both. So in 2016, I was running a wealth management firm here in Iowa. Done it since I was a day out of college, Paul. So from 23 to 50, basically, I was running an investment shop. I was on TV for 5 years. I had radio for about 16. I loved what I was doing. We had built a very good team. We had about $800 million of what's called assets under management. I was 50, married the love of my life, Prudence, for 21 years. Three boys. Seth was 23, Ian 15, and Roman 13. So typical dad, right? Coaching, making money, paying bills, traveling, just enjoying life. But like a lot of families, there's cracks. There's things that come to fruition once problems start surfacing. And so on October 4th, 2016, our oldest son Seth was found dead in a hotel room about an hour from where I live. He had unfortunately ran into fentanyl on his addiction experience. And I had never heard of fentanyl at the time. I knew Seth was having problems. He had been in prison actually, and had been released early. But I kind of thought that was rock bottom. You're told as a parent all the time, hey, your kid's got to hit rock bottom. Maybe that drunk driving, maybe that getting fired from his job. And I'm like, yeah, I had a rock bottom a few times, when I was younger. Maybe that is rock bottom prison. But he got out, met a girl, introduced him to heroin, and it wasn't very many experiences with heroin that he just ran into a batch of fentanyl. And that was in 2016, when I think there was about 42,000 deaths in the United States from fentanyl. It wasn't long, but that had almost tripled. So I think 2 years ago it was close to 115, 120,000 in the United States. And so that was the really first time in my life, Paul. So I was 50, had everything that I thought I wanted as a young man when I started my career. I mean, checked all the boxes, big house, fast car, traveled. But losing Seth was the first time that the universe came in and said, we're going to take something from you. What are you going to do about it? And that's really where I'm at now. It wasn't when Seth died. You can imagine what I went through. The second worst moment of my life was telling my wife that Seth was dead that same day. That was, I write about it in my book. I share it when I keynote, because I think it's important for people to understand if things go unchecked and you have family members that are struggling, this is an outcome that's always on the table. And I used to tell Seth, Paul, jail or death. Well, it was both. It was prison and death. And so, I played every possible scenario in my head. Could I have done better? Should I have, gave him more money? Should I have him move into the house when he got out of prison? And after a while, and this is where psychedelics really helped me, Paul, I let all that go. I let it all go. There wasn't any way I was going to bring him back. I'm personally not a believer in, the religious view of what's going on. I believe in a higher power, and possibly, let's just say I believe in a collective consciousness. I think you're no more or less than a God than I am. And that's how I've looked at animals and trees and everything on this planet now. And what psychedelics allowed me to do is really step back and look at the poor choices Seth had made and the consequences that he paid. He paid for it with his life. And could I have done anything differently? And I don't really think there was anything I could have done differently. So huge first step for me in my maturation through death, or my evolution through death, was liberating myself from shame, from guilt. Guilt. That
But
was
correct me if I'm
that.
wrong. That wasn't the only thing that happened
No,
to change your
no.
way
And
through the world,
so,
isn't it? I mean,
yeah, yeah. So when Seth died, he was 23. Roman and Ian were 17, 15 and 13. So they were young. And when I wrote my book, it's called This One's for You, An Inspirational Journey Through Addiction, Death, and Meaning. I discovered that sibling bereavement, so losing a brother or sister, is the hardest thing for an adolescent to deal with, more than losing a parent or a dog or a grandparent. It's losing, especially an older brother or sister, the one that you look up to. Even though he was struggling, he was still older brother Seth. And so I knew that going into it. And so about a year and a half after Seth died, I'd taken some time off from work, told everybody heroically I was going to take care of myself. The reality was I didn't. And I just sat home with my wife and we just drank more and more and more. And as I like to say when I talk, I called every negative person in my head, invited them over for the biggest pity party you could have. And my wife and I and what people didn't know is that I've been an alcoholic since 18. So I was considered a high functioning alcoholic. Type A. I'm not an alpha male, but I kind of thought I was. Now in hindsight, psychedelics have quieted my ego enough. I know how foolish that is, but I really thought I was like, you know, tough guy.
Mm.
That I could drink 5, 6 days a week and get up and do it again. And like most things, most addictions, they're not a problem until they become a problem. And when Seth died, the first problem was I was drinking during his struggles. And that is something I have to take to my grave.
Mm.
I didn't have the courage to quit, to show him what it's like. Because a lot of times we had our issues, I was drunk or drinking. Um, and so, yeah, so 14 months went by. We drank every day. And then finally, I looked at my wife, Paul, and she was just stunningly beautiful. And she was 9 years younger than me. And she walked by me on Christmas Eve of 17. And that's when it really hit me. That's when you have those epiphany moments. You've had them. We all have them. Your listeners, your followers have had them. And I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, man, you're going to lose your wife too if you don't do something today, like right freaking now. So I went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, took my glass of wine. It was like 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve, and I poured it down the sink. And as the wine circled the drain and went down, so did my desire to ever drink alcohol again, ever. I've never had a drop since. It's been over 8 years. I've never had one thought of consuming alcohol in 8 years. That's how much burying our oldest son impacted me. So I already felt like a coward. I already felt like a loser. I felt like I let both of them down. So I thought, well, it's never too late. At 52, I put the bottle down. And unfortunately, it didn't help my wife. And in 4.5 years after Seth died, she drank herself to death. So at the age of 46, um, my lovely wife, Prudence, of 21 years, succumbed to, as the death certificate says, alcohol. I know it was grief. Alcohol was the answer to her grief.
Yeah.
It numbed the pain. So, yeah, from 50 to 55, when most of my peers, especially men at that age, are at homes and getting boats and going on Europe for 2 weeks, and I'm burying my family. And my mom then died 3 months later, very close to my mom. And so I sat in my closet with my gun in my hand all weekend that Christmas of 2021. And still there's parts of me that thinks I did end my life and that this is the afterlife. I honestly sometimes think I did, because there's no way I couldn't have. I was that willing to quit. I don't have any idea why I do. I can share with you maybe one or two reasons why I didn't, but yeah, death had to have been a better option. Death had to have been more enjoyable than the living hell I was telling myself. And I stress that because we all deal with death. I wasn't picked out from the universe and punished. You live long enough, and I know, Paul, you've had people die in your life. I guarantee you have. We all have. It's just not the order of going child, wife, 84-year-old mom. I mean, that's not the order that you, or I'm sorry, 90-year-old mom. It's not the order you think about, but that's the beauty and the mystery of life, is that you just don't know when your last day is. And so you have to have that gratitude.
Yeah.
We're all going to have a last day. There's going to be a call. People in my life are going to get, hey, did you hear about Jeff? Yeah, he's gone. The reason isn't as important as the fact that he's gone. And I know that now. And death has been a great teacher for me,
Mm.
more than life has, because it's allowed me to enjoy and be grateful for the breaths I have.
Yeah.
Because Seth and Prudence never have an experience to see the sun come up or the water hit your face or hit a golf shot or watch a football game. I don't even have a chance to have a fight with them. Think about that. When I hear people argue with their spouse or argue with their kids, I just sit back and think, man, I'd love to have the worst fight with my son right now. I'd love to have the worst fight with my wife. I can't even have that. You're lucky
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have someone say they hate you.
Yeah.
You're so
But
freaking lucky.
but what's interesting is that I mean, I was about to use the word turn things around, but you've used those experiences as a launch pad for something else. I mean,
Hmm.
tell us about how you've used that as a launch pad and what you're trying to do now. I mean, just give us a sense of where you.
Yeah, I'll get to that, but there's a part of the story I think that kind of ties it all together,
Right.
and then I'll get into what we're doing with Brightn, the app. So 3 weeks after Seth died, his daughter was born. And we didn't know about her
Right.
for about a year. She's 9 now, and she's my only granddaughter. And her name is Brightn. And there's just something about when you're in the middle of whatever chaos you're going through, there are glimmers of hope. There's little
Mm.
reminders from the universe that this is a love driven world that we're in. And to get a gift like Brighton 3 weeks after Seth died, how lucky am I, man? How many parents lose a child and that's it? I can always see a little bit of Seth,
Mm.
when I see her, when I pick her up from school or we go out and have donuts or whatever. And that I have to be very grateful for. So I was sitting around. I did a lot of things after Seth died and after Prudence died. I did a tour around the United States in an RV for like 20,000 miles for 95 days, just trying to raise awareness and money to nonprofits for mental health. Wrote a book. I started a podcast called Living Undeterred, where I still have it, where I talk to people that have been through personal situations that have catapulted into something passion, purpose driven. And that's what we did. So what I finally ended up doing was going back to AI and phones and all that is I thought, well, I want to help people improve their lives. I want to use my story as that door opener. I mean, obviously I'm aware it's a powerful story,
Yeah.
and I really don't want them to die for nothing. And by me talking about Seth and Prudence, you know about them now. It's like they're literally alive. If I never talk about them, then they actually really die. And on my watch, that wasn't going to happen. So I wanted to take this a little bit deeper. So I thought, okay, what was I good at for 36 years? I did financial planning. I want to start an app. I did financial planning. I have no really mental health experience. How am I going to make this work? Like, where's the bridge? And what I found out was that I did something called financial planning. So we would gather with you, do a fact finder, get your tax bracket, your goals, your risk level, get all that stuff together. Then I would say, Paul, based on what you told me, here's my suggestions of where we should invest your 401k or invest your IRA, whatever it's going to be. And those asset classes typically were like stocks, bonds, real estate. Now you could say crypto and gold, things like that. Where I thought to myself, okay, if I were to build a mental wellness planning app, like a financial planning app, but do it for your mental health, what would my human asset classes be? So I'm logically stepping through where I could bridge my previous life to now being an advocate for mental health. And so I thought to myself, and I kind of re-asked the questions, if I could be the creator for a day, what 3 areas would I focus on to reduce human suffering? That's another way to ask the question.
Mm.
And it was health, wealth, and purpose.
Mm.
Those are the 3 tenets of the app. So my elevator pitch is Brighton aims to improve human flourishing through the intersection of health, wealth, and purpose using AI. And that's what we've done. And we've launched 3 years ago. We just monetized last year, and we found a unbelievable need in the workplace environment in the United States
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're prevention.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think that your point about prevention is really well made because there's an awful lot around for people that are already having problems, but there's
Oh
not so
yeah.
much around which is about helping people prevent those things occurring, and I think that's a really important thing to focus on. Let me ask you about being the CEO. I mean, obviously you've got a long track record prior to this of building a different kind of business, but tell me about how you see the job of the CEO in this new
Hmm.
context. I mean, building an app is very different from building a financial services business. I mean, how do you see that job? What do you see on the road ahead there?
Good question. For me, and again, I can only speak for me. I'm not a high tech CEO.
Right.
I think one thing in the startup space, especially in the tech world, you have 2 types of founders or CEOs. You have the high tech ones; those are the coders, the nerds, the people that are
Yeah.
brilliant when it comes to math and systems and all that charts and all that stuff. I'm literally the polar opposite. Like I was never a fixer of things when I was younger. I was always a visionary. I always had these big ideas,
Mm.
and that's how I started my investment company. Was I had a big idea. Well, that in this space takes you so far. To find investors that write you checks, you can't just have a big idea. You have to have an engine in the machine that actually works.
Yeah.
And so Initially, that's probably where I think we had stalled was that I had a full-time employee, we had an idea, I hired a dev team in Washington D.C. to build the app, but we were kind of just floating along,
Mm.
you know. And then my CTO, my existing CTO came on board and that really changed a lot for us. That's the guy who actually built the machine. And so as I'm out, and I'm going to answer your question here about what a CEO does and what a founder does. My job right now is probably three things right now. One, manage the team, making sure people are in the right seats on the bus, making sure people are doing things that they like. It's one thing if you're good at something, Paul, but you hate doing it. It's another thing if you're good at something you like doing it.
Mm.
And so I don't want to take people who are really good at stuff and put them in positions where they don't like doing it. That creates a very toxic culture. That goes from Good to Great, which was a book that James
Yeah,
Collins wrote years
yeah,
ago.
yep.
He talked a lot about finding great people and then inventing job positions for them, where most people go out. Oops, sorry. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I
Yeah, I
touched.
can hear you now. Carry on.
So most people say, "Hey, Paul's a great guy. He's brilliant. He's smart. I got to get him on my team." So geez, where does he fit? You know, so okay. Or I go out and say, I got this job, HR director, send me your application. And I go through and weed through. I like the first one. I like to find great people that have unbelievable passion that, even half of mine would be great. It's hard to find someone that would die for their cause. And that's my passion is I would literally die for what I'm doing right now. And most people aren't going to go that far. And I respect that. But a lot of people will go right to the edge.
Mm.
So I want to find people that really have had something in their life happen. And
Mm.
that's true. Carson, his uncle committed suicide. Emily lost a brother. So we've had people on our team that have lost people to I would consider the deaths of despair, which is overdose, alcohol, and suicide. So my job is to find those people, put them on the bus. The second job for me is to be the face of Brightn,
Mm.
doing podcasts like this, selling the dream, talking about the why, pitching. So all the pitch decks I do, every investor we meet, I'm the one pitching it. First meetings with providers or payers, I'm normally on those first calls.
Mm.
And the third, and I'd have to say for a pre-seed, which we just wrapped up our first round, probably the most important is finding money.
Mm.
This doesn't happen without money. I've put in over $500,000 of my own money in 3 years. At the pace I was putting it in, I couldn't maintain that very long. I am 59. I've done okay financially, but I'm not a billionaire. Doing the math, I'm like, well, I can't do this for 5 years to get Brightn to be making money. I've got to find investors. So we opened up a pre-seed round, which we just basically wrapped that up. We have a little bit left on the round. So I'd say those are the three things. Find the people, put them on the bus,
Mm.
manage the teams, find the money, and then be the face of the company. Those would be the three things that I think a really good CEO. And then don't try to do everything.
I mean, I was about to ask about that very specific point. I mean, one of the things that's interesting is, I mean, people say, don't they, that strategy is mainly about what you don't do, because there's a billion things you could do. The question
Right.
really is, well, I'm not going to do all those things, but I am going to focus on these things. I mean, how did you work out the things to focus on? I mean, how do you kind of cut through the noise to say, well, it's these three things that I'm going to do?
It's a good question because I like to meet people. Like when
Mm.
you reached out to me, I accepted it. A lot of people probably wouldn't have because they're too busy. I like to meet people, but there comes a point where you got to have boundaries. And that really is my word for 2026. I have it written up here on my left. Last year was innocence. I wanted to live a life like a 6-year-old Jeff Johnston. I wanted to just be like a puppy. And I tried to have that boyish heart in me all last year. Didn't always work out. I had a really rough year last year. This year I've changed my word to boundaries, learning to say no more often and taking on the selective yeses. And then instead of 100 projects getting a little bit piece of Jeff, now there's 10 that get more of me. And I think I can be more productive that way if I learn to say no more often. But it's still hard to do because like meeting you, I mean, I like to meet new people. I think there's something about having a heart-centered mindset. Um, like altruism with the soul versus altruism with money. It's like if I say no, maybe that's somebody that could have been a partner with us. Maybe that's somebody that we could have acquired and made Brightn a better company. Maybe it's somebody that would have invested in us. Maybe it's all these maybes that I need to now going into I'll be 60 in April. I need to spend my time in more productive areas than getting too watered down. And that's hard for me to do because in my nature, being a podcast host, I like to talk to people. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's hard for just for you. I mean, I think a lot of people find it
Yeah,
difficult.
I
It's a
agree.
difficult thing to work out. How to do that. Let me ask you about something else that interests me. One of the things that's interesting about building a business now, let's say compared to when you started out 20, 25 years ago. I mean, we're building businesses in what I describe as the kind of social media age.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is that everything is scrutinized,
Hmm.
everything is observed by God knows how many people.
Hmm.
It's totally different building a business in that kind of public arena than building a business, if you like, in a dark room where nobody knows what you're
Yeah.
doing, I mean, how have you found that experience? Because the area you're focused on as well is a very emotive area. I mean,
Hmm.
people that have had
Yeah.
experiences in those areas, it's really affected them in
Hmm.
ways that building widgets and selling widgets is that you're not going to get the same kind of emotional reaction.
Right. Right.
So tell me about that kind of building in the social media age. I mean, how have you found that? How has that, how have you played that, if you like?
Not very well early on. I didn't play it well at all. I took things the wrong way. Um, got maybe a little more defensive than I needed to be. Uh, However, I have taken upon myself this year with my new word, boundaries, to being a little bit less caring about what people think about me,
Right.
a little more daring to make a statement like Adderall is evil, something like that. Like I would never say that years ago because I was afraid I would scare off an investor or a partner. It's like
Yeah.
my son got addicted to Adderall. So I think I have a claim in
Yeah.
thinking Adderall's evil.
Yeah.
If your son uses Adderall and has saved his life, well, then obviously you're not going to agree with me. That's where those personal experiences come into play.
Yeah.
I have been less worried about what people think about me now. I want people to like me and support me, but it doesn't bother me now if someone disagrees with
And
me.
what's changed? I mean, why has that happened? I mean, I think it's a good thing, I've got to say,
Yeah,
but why?
because 2025 was the hardest year of my life. Um, I haven't really. I know this is only early January, but I haven't shared this publicly. Even lots of my team members aren't aware of some of the things I went through in 2025. Some of it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, you bury your son, you bury your wife, and then boom, something goes wrong on the business plan. Now you're like, oh, more. And it's like you kind of reach that point where it just feels like it's heaping on. But again, there's a mindset shift you can make in the middle of that. And I had beautiful things going on in my life all around me last year. I just blocked them out. I had love everywhere. I mean, in my house, I have three cats, two dogs, my daughter-in-law, my son, and my other son. I got a house full of love, man.
Mm.
But I'd walk around some days like I was completely lost. And so I think for me, it was more of practicing, and I mean really practicing gratitude. I'm happy I didn't pull that trigger in the closet, Paul.
Mm.
I really am. Um, and I've looked at suffering now as an opportunity, as Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning. He said, suffering will be my opportunity. And that was a wholesale shift he made. And Stoicism goes back, talks about reframing your life, Epictetus, and
Mm.
uh, now I'm forgetting, oh, Marcus Aurelius, all the great Stoics talked about the inevitability of pain, but your suffering is a choice, chosen suffering.
Mm.
And again, I learned about Stoicism back in college, but never was presented an opportunity to practice it because my life was going really good for a long period of time.
And
And
I mean, let me ask
yeah,
you, you talk about not having the opportunity to practice it. I mean, just explain what you mean by that, because a lot of people would think, well, it just happens to you. I mean, just
I didn't have a
explain
lot
what
of
you mean
bad
by
things happen to me. I mean, I was an alcoholic. I had financial problems. I never filed bankruptcy. I mean, we had marriage issues. We never fought much. I never really had a reason to sit down and say, "Oh my God, this is unraveling," and it never hit me until Seth died, and then I drank for a year and a half. That was my answer, and then after I stopped drinking, I thought, okay, how am I going to numb that? How am I going to stop this pain?
Mm.
The intense. It's been 9 years now, and I still cry every day. Every day I cry. But the weight of the tears are completely different. They're not weighted down with pain and hurt and sorrow. They're weighted down, but it's a different essence of the tears. I guess I like to say when I talk about this and when I write about it, it's more of crying of missing them. It's like my tears equal the amount of pain that I or equal the amount of love that I had for them. And it sounds like a bad country western song, but it's true. It's like when I'm in the depths of my despair, because I miss them, man, because I love them. I wish there's things I could have done differently, but there's nothing I can do about that. It's literally over. I have to focus on not even really the future. I have to focus on right now, the conversation you're having. What can I say in your conversation with you that a follower or a listener of you can say, man, I'm happy I tuned into Paul today. This guy they brought on, I'm not going to buy his app, but holy cow, the way he said a few things. And that's all what this is about right now is just trying to change one life at a time. And I really feel with the feedback I'm getting almost on a daily basis that I am making a difference. But I got to be careful. I don't want to do it at my expense,
Yeah, you've
like
got
I
to
did
look
the
after
first few
yourself.
years.
You've got to look after
Yeah,
yourself, or you can't
I
look
did a
after
very
other
bad
people.
job of that the last few years.
Yeah, you've got to look after yourself, or you can't look after anybody else.
Right.
It's really important. I mean, do you think that's changed you as a leader?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think I've always been. And when I speak, I talk about how you change behavior. Okay. And leaders have to manage and change behavior. Two ways you do it. Only two ways that I know of that you change behavior: fear and scarcity. That's a dominant CEO. Put the fear of God in Paul. Paul's going to show up. He's going to kick butt in the meeting because he's afraid of me. That's a short term, not genuine way to follow somebody.
So that's a bit like Donald Trump and his tariffs. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yeah. Or as you know, back here, I'm 59. I don't know how much you followed basketball back in the day, but there was a coach by the name of Bobby Knight who did that.
Mm.
Indiana's coach. He's one of the greatest basketball coaches ever. He basically led by fear,
Yeah.
and I grew up in that world. And so I don't think I ever was that type of manager because I didn't like to be led that way. So I wasn't gonna lead that way. Um, the other way is love and inspiration
Mm.
instead of, anger and hatred. It's a heart-centered life. And so I like to think, am I the greatest leader of all time? Hell no.
Mm.
I'm a good leader, I think. Can I be better? Absolutely. But I like to inspire people. I like to get people. So like when my staff does something well, I like to put a little smiley emoji. I'm 59. I don't think emojis are tacky. I do it all the time. Some of the younger people say, oh, don't put an email. Don't put a happy face. I'm like, why? If I put a happy face in email to Paul and he doesn't like it, that's a Paul problem.
Mm.
That's not a,
And
that's not,
has that shift happened because of what's happened to you? I mean,
yeah,
or have you just
absolutely.
gone more in the same direction?
No, it's shifted because there's moments of my life I look back on Seth and Prudence where I could have been more empathetic,
Mm.
not sympathetic, empathetic.
Mm.
I was sad that my wife chose alcohol over us when we were struggling, and I chose to be sober. I was sad for her. She went to rehab. We did all these things but I didn't really have the empathy. It's like I wanted to get back to where my life was, but when somebody dies, it's never going to go back there.
No,
So I
it's
set
never
myself up for an absolute unrealistic expectation to go back in time and create this life I had that was never going to come back. So now, after 9 years of Seth's deaths and almost five of my wife, I've learned it doesn't serve me much to go back in time and punish myself. Great memories, horrific memories, but that part of my life is over.
Mm.
And so I can lead with love and hope and inspiration, and I can still honor them and still talk about them, but not in a way where you and I are sitting in a pub and I'm getting drunk every night.
Mm.
And you're giving me a hug. Hey, Jeff, I got you. And I'm crying about my wife. And the next night I do it again. There's nothing productive is going to come out of that for Jeff Johnston.
No.
And maybe for somebody else, that's their coping mechanism. But for me, it's hard. It's not easy. Get up every morning, have my coffee, eat really healthy, work on run on my elliptical, go on podcasts. I'm working on my second book, which I haven't announced publicly. It's called The Upstream Mind. It's about shifting our whole approach and moving further upstream with life.
But you've mentioned it now.
I do. You're the first podcast, the first.
And
Um,
I'm honored. I mean, I'm sure it'll
yeah,
be good to read.
but my team doesn't even know about it. I haven't told anyone in my circle.
But
But um, maybe I feel safe because you're across the pond.
maybe, maybe, yeah.
It won't get
And
here.
let me ask you another question. I mean, which is not, it's sort of related to leadership, but
Mhm.
do you think that ability to empathize, which you're talking about developing, and I get that and how important that is.
Mhm.
Do you think that's changed the way you work with customers, the people that are supporting you, the people that buy the app? I mean, has that shift just affected the way you deal with people,
One
your
thousand
team,
percent.
or has it affected the way you deal with customers? I mean, tell us about.
1,000%. Every time I see a hostile situation on social media, somebody arguing or somebody in an airport, having a meltdown, I actually have a tremendous amount of empathy for those people.
Mm.
Like most people say, oh, that person needs to be arrested. They need to be thrown off the plane. Now look at that idiot fighting. And I'm like, no, when my son was under the influence, I'm sure when he got arrested, he was that person. My wife had plenty of situations where alcohol prevented her from being her. So my heart goes out. When you're seeing somebody on the street and social media likes to zoom in on these addicts laying there and they're doing their thing and they laugh and mock at them. They're lucky they're not doing that right in front of me. Now, I'm not an opposing guy, but I would die to fight somebody that's mocking somebody that's struggling with addiction or mental health. That's somebody's mom. That's somebody's child. That's somebody that has a family. And for you to sit there and to film them and mock them because they're addicted to meth or something, shame on you. Shame on you. And I guess so that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from is as I put my son and my wife in these situations. And so, yeah, if I'm on a pitch to an investor group and the investor gives me the standard, oh, you're too early, or oh, this health insurance isn't our vertical, we're not interested, I actually feel sorry for them.
Mm.
I feel sorry for them, not in an arrogant way, like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. We're going to sell this for $1 billion and I'm going to send you a copy of my wire that went in. It's like, no, that's leading from fear and scarcity. I want to make this thing work well because I think someday you're going to come back and say, Jeff, we passed in you, but man, look at you. You've done a great job. I'm going to say, thank you very much. I hope you're doing well too. All from a place of love, no hate. I don't even hate the drug dealer that sold fentanyl to my son. I gave that up. Absolutely. I don't hate fentanyl. My dad almost died 3 years ago, and I'm in the hospital, and there's a machine up there, and it says fentanyl on it. How can I hate fentanyl to save my dad?
Mm.
It's like, so again, for me, I have to live this way, Paul. If somebody wants to go out and go after these drug dealers and put them in prison and they have to feel that that's the way they're going to get their child back, power to them. God bless them. I'll support them. I can't live my life that way. I have zero hate in my heart. Absolutely. There's not one person on the planet that I detest or hate. Zero.
And the great thing about that is that then doesn't those things then don't hold you back, do they?
Zero. And it was psychedelics that unlocked that for me 3 years ago. It was psychedelics that allowed me to neuroplasticity and rewire and tell myself different stories, not really new stories. The stories are in there. I'm just selectively not going down those roads. I want to be negative. I went down a negative story. And I don't really believe in like manifestation, like, oh, Paul, let's close our eyes and you're going to have a check for $10,000 show up in your mailbox on Monday. I don't believe in that, but I do believe if I every day put in more than I take out from the universe every single day, sometimes 10x, how can the universe not support me?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how can it not?
Yeah. And it's great to hear that that way of thinking, actually. Let me ask you though, I mean, your journey has involved dealing with a lot of challenges.
Hmm.
I mean, what would you say to somebody who was starting out? You know, if you were to go back to day one, knowing
Mm,
what you know now, what advice would you give to somebody who might be facing those kind of challenges?
that's a great question, Paul. I don't, I'm not comfortable giving like advice. So what I'll do is I will tell you what I learned.
Mhm.
That's pretty much what you asked. Because building up to Seth's death, I had a set of circumstances that was different than the average person, maybe. Being white, being male, living in Iowa, pretty sheltered life, you know. Um, I would say having a realistic set of expectations. So death's coming to everybody.
Yep.
And when it happens, we act shocked. And I think it's because a lot of times it just comes out of nowhere. And the finality of it, the impermanence of death is what is disturbing for us, you know. Um,
And
I
perhaps
think the
people
other
don't want to think about it.
no. So I think expectations is like the first thing I would
Yeah.
suggest for people to have. You're always one phone call away from the call I got twice.
Hmm.
Like right now, my phone could ring
Yeah.
and I could look over and it could be a call. I got two of them. Um, so have expectations. The other one I think is preparation, preparing yourself, mindfulness practices. Go read the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Stop drinking alcohol. Stop smoking. Or if, okay, I don't want to preach. If alcohol isn't causing any problems in your life, then who am I to tell you not to drink alcohol? I smoke cigars. People say don't smoke. Well, I don't. I don't smoke a lot. I don't smoke during the winter, so I go 5 or 6 months here in the Midwest where I don't smoke them, but I still smoke them. I used to have a gambling problem. I can still bet $50 on a game. It doesn't bother me. So when I say don't drink, that's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say, look at the addictions that you have in your life, and if they're not serving you well, then eliminate them. It could be fast foods, it could be fried foods, it could be dairy, or whatever you're addicted to, ice cream, whatever. If it's causing you problems in your life,
Do
you'll
something
have to
about it.
make that decision. I'm not the one to say, Paul, don't drink. I mean, that's I think that's we have too much of that in society. People preaching how you should live your life.
Yeah.
So I'd say expectations number one. The second one is preparation. So exercise for a 59-year-old man, I have to work on being strong. I'm not super strong. I've injured my neck here a month ago, so I haven't been able to lift. But I do run. I do watch what I eat. I take supplements. I take a handful of really good supplements. The other one is expectations, preparations, and then I would say evolution. Knowing that you are not going to be the same person you were a week ago, an hour ago, specifically 10 years ago. I look at pictures of me right now, Paul. I sometimes wonder if I was ever married. Like I look at the picture and I see me in there. It's 21 years, man. And I see this 195-pound guy looking back at me and I'm like, who is that guy? Who is that guy?
Mm.
And again, that's the evolution of self that I wrote about in my first book, is that the illusion of self. It's like you think there really is this you running through life. It really isn't that way. You're experiencing life. There really isn't a you. And death will prove that very shortly, that there really isn't a you on this planet. There is now. You're having a lived experience. And whether you believe in the afterlife or not, I guess it doesn't really matter. If you're not here on the earth, that's what I was referring to. So I'm trying to make heaven on earth every day. I'm trying to say, hey, if I want to, there's no reason why I have to wait to die to see Seth and Prudence. I can see them right now, man. Talking to you. If they're in my heart, they keep me going. They're
And
with me when I'm suffering. They're with me when I'm laughing.
and are you saying that people should focus on driving that evolution? I mean, I think that idea that we all evolve is a really interesting one because, of course, it's absolutely true.
Right.
Do you think we should be driving that, for want of a better way to describe it, or do you think, should we be proactive about that, or just let it happen to us?
I think you should be proactive about it from at least, and this goes back to again, like Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. Adashante wrote a great book called something the Stillness of Emptiness or something like that. I can't remember the name of his book. Great books about capturing being present. These are all different philosophers out there. Obviously, I mentioned Stoicism a few times. Um, being more present in my life and sitting there sometimes and just getting the vagus nerve going and just breathing in and then letting it back out like 3 times really strong, and just really almost feeling lightheaded, and then just I was listening to a podcast and a guy was on a 5-day darkness retreat, which is something I want to do.
Mhm.
I want to go into a darkness retreat for like maybe 3 days. And he said when he got out and they took the mask off him, he fell to his knees and started crying. And how he forgot how beautiful everything is when you're in the dark for 3 days. But why do you have to go to the dark for 3 days to have that feeling? Why
Mhm.
can't you have that without doing the? So I'm trying my spiritual journeys have these psychedelic moments without taking psychedelics. Have that moment of awe without being in a cave for 3 days with a mask on.
Mm.
And I think,
And is that what your business is trying to do? I mean, to come back to the app, I mean,
yeah,
is that going to help with that, do you think?
I think it will help. Since we're in prevention, we spend an inordinate amount of time in our life putting out fires,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's very true.
Um, and I would say the last 9 years, I probably spent 80% of my life putting out fires, self-imposed, self-imposed sabotage, imposter syndrome, shame, guilt, all these things that the universe gave me as superpowers. That's why I think we're all gods. I mean, I have these godlike abilities called emotions, and things
Mm.
that warn me about problems that could come up. And instead of just grasping onto those things, identifying with them so heavily that it just literally starts bringing you down. I think that ability to understand these things are here to serve us, not to hold us back. So crying, for example, feeling that feeling in your gut when I'm just I'm on all fours on the ground and I'm thinking about Seth. There's a reason I'm going through this. And it's not a religious reason. There's a reason that my body is doing this to me right now. I've learned to embrace that, like sit in it. And it's not fun. I don't look forward to it when I feel it, but I can feel it coming, man. I can. Like it's hearing a car coming, a race car coming. You can't see it yet, but you can hear it coming. You know it's coming. I can feel that emptiness coming in me when it comes. And I used to fight it. And maybe
Mm.
an alcoholic will go and get a drink, and that's how they block it,
Mm.
or whatever addiction you have. For me, it's now like, okay, I'm going to cancel my meetings for the day. I'm going to sit, bring it on.
Mm.
you know, and kick the shit out of me. Just, I need you to do this, universe. Because I know I'm batting 1,000% of every worst moment in my life I've survived.
Mm.
What makes me think I can't survive the next?
Mm. And I think
I'm in the Hall of Fame statistically.
yeah, yeah. And I think,
1,000. I'm batting. I've never ever lost the fight
yeah,
because I'm still here.
yeah. Muhammad Ali famously said, it's not getting knocked over that's the problem. It's staying down that's the problem. I mean, that's
Right.
what you're basically saying, isn't it?
Or another boxing quote with Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the
Punched in the
face.
face, yeah, yeah. Which is really good advice, I think,
Yeah. And
of
getting
the
a call
belief.
your son overdosed in a hotel, that's punched in the face.
Yeah.
Getting a call your wife drank herself to death, that's punched in the face. So I had a plan. My wife and I were going to get a place in Rotan to scuba dive. I had a plan. I was going to,
Mm.
watch Seth's child, which I actually do, ironically, but he's not here. I had plans, but I got punched in the face.
Mm.
And I'm going to get punched in the face again. And that's where I think people have to understand is that I'm no more or no less likely to have a bad phone call today than you are. And just because I had 2 bad ones doesn't mean the universe said, "Oh, we're done with you, Jeff. We're going to give you a break." I thought that after the first one. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And it's not unfair. It's actually the reality of life. It's why you have to be so intimately grateful for what you do have.
Yeah.
And the things that are no longer here, you have to accept it. And I
Yeah.
don't like the term moving on. I just think that's way too cliche. And if you've been through something, you don't move on. You evolve, you adapt, you
Yeah.
restructure, you change your DNA. you don't move on. It's not like you just change the chapter on a book and you put the book away and you move on. That's that. Why would I want to move on? I don't understand that. I've never understood that.
Mm.
Seth's death is part of my story now.
Yeah.
So why would I want to move on? I want to move on in a way where it's implied that I want to move on and forget about it. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah. And I think that comes across. Jeffrey, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, I think that last piece of advice about being grateful for what you've got is a really, really important thing to remember. I mean, you know, entrepreneurs are great people and but in one sense, they have a really privileged life because they're doing interesting things, they're
Hmm.
making progress, they're changing stuff. Those are things, tremendous things to be grateful for, and things that we should really value. So thank you for that advice, and thank you for coming on and sharing the story. I mean, I hope the app goes from strength to strength. I know it's going pretty well, but I'm sure there's more exciting things on the horizon for you. So thanks for coming on and thanks for sharing that with us.
Appreciate you reaching out to me, Paul. Enjoyed it.
Uh, Cheers, Jeff. See you soon.
You bet.
Bye bye.